All right, everybody. I thought I would just have a return to Purim and wear myself a tie-dye. I bought this tie-dye along with my kids getting tie-dyes on trips up to not to Bakersfield, to Haight-Ashbury in San Fran. And I was in a festive mood. You know, when you move, you unpack, and then things that used to be in the bottom of the heap end up, ascending to the top of the heap of clothes. And so here we are. Anyway, let's say our bracha together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And here we go. That melody we use for our weekday. So we've discussed Elu Devarim. You'll remember we took a look at the Shushan Purim, or the Shoshanat Yaakov poem that follows the reading of the Megillah last time. And so this time we continue where we left off. We had explored the Torah blessings. We had explored Elu Devarim Shein Lahem Shiur, the idea that there are these things without measure that are considered mitzvot, that we are to do without limit, and that the reward would come. Karen Kayemet Lo Le'olam Haba, that the reward essentially is for the world to come, and they are all really beautiful mitzvot. I know Pamela enjoyed this, that there's this express commitment to Kibud Av Va'em, honoring father and mother, Gemilu Chasadim, showing bestowal of kindnesses on people, Bahashkamat Beit HaMidrash Achari Varavi, getting up early in the morning, and also going as early as you can in the evening to daven, Bahachnasad Orchim, and welcoming guests, and Bikur Cholim, visiting those who are ill, Bahachnasad Kala, accompanying the bride, which is usually translated as making sure that the bride is having a good time, but also has a wedding dress that's clean and beautiful and extravagant. It's a moment for being a little bit more ostentatious, almost like encouraging that, especially for the poor. So there are funds that go to that. Ulvayat Hamed. I don't think we actually discussed each of these. Accompanying the dead, right? Because it's the whole idea of a halvaya is this accompanying, when you form two lines at a funeral and you talk to the loved ones of the deceased and you support them, and the iyun tefillah, which they translate here as concentrating on the meaning of prayer. Iyun is like to focus in. Ayen is used in the sources to describe kind of focusing in. Putting an eye to it, I think, is what it is. An eye on the tefillah, like really examining and exploring it, right? V'hava'at shalom ben adam l'chavero, the understanding of causing the understanding. It's a he feel verb, v'hava'at. Hava'ah is to cause one to lehavin, to understand. Or actually, no, it's hava'ah is to bring, lahavi, to bring peace between a person and his neighbor, and also between a man and his wife. And then all of these mitzvot are Talmud Torah, Keneged Kulam, all of them are equivalent to one another. Then we looked at this prayer for putting on the tallis. I think we just got to the Baruchi Nafshi. We did not look at the L'Shem Kudsha Brichu, the lower part here. Does anybody have a different perspective on what we accomplished? I think we have not looked at this. Does this look familiar to anyone?
I think we just started talking about Tallit and women wearing, I don't know that we delved into the prayer.
I don't think we did. So let's start from here. This is called a Kavvanah. It is a spiritual intention that is to focus on what the meaning can be, but it's also out of Jewish mysticism. And what's interesting about these kavanot that precede readings of prayers, and we see them all over the place. Sometimes they start with Hineni Muchanum Zuman, right? We see that in the counting of the Omer, for instance. But what's interesting about all of them is that they are controversial in earlier generations of the Jewish people around the time that Jewish mysticism started to emerge, because really the pshat meaning, the basic meaning of these prayers is subsumed with this mystical idea of unification of the divine name, which really is not what this prayer is about. Now, it'll make reference to particular ideas, but it's really, we're doing this not for the sake of the mitzvah of putting on the tzitzit, but rather for the sake of unifying God's name. It's an entirely different meaning. And this is really tricky because it really, you can understand why there was a major battle in Eastern Europe when the Hasidim started to really shift gears and were saying prayers like this. It infuriated people like the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, who said, no, you're changing the religion. Even though he was a mystic, he didn't think that we should just completely alter the significance of these prayers. This is a really important point to understand, that this is not, we look at all these black hat guys and the ultra orthodox as being, all the same, similarly not us, but actually it's controversy. So let's take a look at this Kavvanah. L'shem yichud kudsha brichu u'shchintei, for the sake of the unification of the Holy One of Blessing and his Shekhinah, his divine presence, usually understood as a feminine, right? Kudsha brichu is associated with the Sphira of Tiferet, or splendor, that we see in the Kabbalistic Eitz Chaim, the tree of life, which is sort of a visual manifestation of the 10 Sphirot. For the sake of the unification of the masculine one known as Tiferet with the feminine one known as Shekhinah, which is also known as Malchut, Bidchu Urechimu, with fear and trembling, or as they translate it, with fear and love and fear, which is interesting because that's not in this. Sometimes it'll say Bidchilu Urechimu Uvirchimu Uvidchilu, right? Like it goes both ways. For the sake, in order, out of fear and trembling, to unify Shem Yud He Bavave, to unify the name of Yud He with Vav He, right? So what's going on here? The Tetragrammaton, also known as Shem HaMefurash, or this divine name for God, which is a 4-lettered name, is understood as having 2 first letters, Yud and He, followed by Vav and He, right? So this is all in the first line of this prayer, of this Kavvanah, of this spiritual, pre-statement for the prayer. Yud He, I believe, is understood as the male, and Vav He as the female, although it could be the other way around. If you were to do this vertically, Yud He Vav He, my poor writing here, you might be able to look at this as being a little bit like a body, where let's make it look a little more like that and like that. And then you have the trunk. And then you've got the He again like this. Let's extend the He just a little bit longer. Now look at this. What does this look like? Anybody? Use your imagination. What do you see?
A person.
A person. Here's the head. Here's the arms. Here's the trunk. And here are the legs. So when we say Yud He Vav He in this way, it can become very, very anthropomorphic, right? It can be very human-like. So that God and humans, remember, we're created b'tselem, in the image of God. So when we're unifying the Yud He with the Vav He, what is Yud He? That's Yah. That's one of the divine names. And Vav He is also seen in this mystical tradition as a divine name. And then, of course, in this, you could also imagine this Vav actually being lowered down. And now you've got Vav He really being the phallus and the legs of a person. So I think Yud He may be the feminine and Vav He may be the masculine. They're hyper-gendered in Jewish mysticism and hyper-heteronormative. Everybody understand what I mean by that? It's really centered around this idea of gender and heterosexuality. And so the unification of Yud He and Vav He could be seen as us having a sexual component to it. And so this is where, you know, when the mystics go down this rabbit hole in the eyes of the rest of the Jewish world, it creates a real divide. And that divide is such that the Hasidim are looking at the other ones who are not Hasidic as being mitnagdim, opponents to their new ideas. And the Vilna Gaon and the Alter Rebbe, also known as Shneur Zalman of Liadi, who wrote the Tanya, right? So this is, I guess you could say, third generation Hasidic thought, because the first generation is Baal Shem Tov, then comes Dov Ber of Mezrich, and then all of Dov Ber of Mezrich's students. That includes the Alter Rebbe and Elimelech of Lezhensk and Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, and all these important Hasidic masters. They fan out with this idea of Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, from out of Zion will come Torah, but it's really Ki Mi Mezebej Teitzei Torah, out of the Ukraine will come Torah. So they end up spreading out with this new idea about integrating Jewish mysticism in with traditional learning, and the rest of the Jewish world that's resistant to it says, what are these crazy lunatic heretics doing to our religion? And in the end, the crazy heretic lunatics are the ones who take over. And that's why sometimes the prayer book has, and they outnumber them. It's like, I think some estimates are like 70% of Eastern Europe becomes Hasidic, and then leaving just 30% of the hardcore scholars who are seen as, like, you know, not diverting from the teaching left. But so in the end, the winner becomes the Hasidim. It's kind of happening right now too in America when it comes to Chabad. But what you see here is a remnant of that struggle and the Hasidic voice winning. So l'shem yichu kusha b'richu shchintei, for the sake of the unification of the Holy One of Blessing with the Shekhinah, male with female, Tiferet with Malchut, Bidchu Rechimu, with fear and with compassion, and Liyached, for the sake of, to unify Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Yah with the Va, so to speak, B'chud Hashlim, in a complete unification, B'Shem Kol Yisrael, for the sake now really of all of Israel. So for the sake of God and for the sake of Israel, Hareini mit atef gufi, behold, I will enwrap my body batzitzi, with tzitzi, with these fringes that are on the corners of the garments, ken titatef nishmati, so too, as I do this with my physical body, ken titatef nishmati, so you will enwrap my soul. So now I'm doing this to my physical body, but you, God, are going to enwrap my soul. Uramach evarai ushisa gidai. You will enwrap my soul and my 248 limbs and my 365 veins and arteries and passageways, right? Because our body, it contains, according to this idea, all 613 mitzvot are part of our container, which is our body. Our container is going to hold all 613 mitzvot as expressed by these 248 parts of our body and 365 passageways between those parts. Okay, and we know that if you see a tree of life, the Eitz Chaim, that it also has these. It has the 10 sefirot, but it also has connections between them. So that's what's happening to our bodies, which adds up to Taryag, which is 613 mitzvot. So as we put on our Tallit, as we put on our Tallit or our tzitzit, we are it's symbolically connecting ourselves with divinity. Ucheshem shani mit kaseh batalit ba'olam hazeh. So just as I am enwrapping myself with a talit in this world, kach eskel lechaluka de Rabbanan, so too I will merit a portion of what the rabbis. Here, let me raise this up a little bit so people can see this. So too, I may merit for the portion of the rabbis, right, as they have it, letalit na'ah, to have a beautiful talis, la'olam haba, that my future will have this beautiful talis like thing, something along those lines. It's kind of wild. Began Eden, in the world to come, in the Garden of Eden. The al yedei mitzvah tzitzit, and through the commandment of the tzitzit, tinatzel nafshi, my soul will be saved. My soul, my spirit, and my other word for soul will be soul. So my body, my spirit, and my soul, and my prayers from utfilati will be saved min hachitzonim, from the extreme things, from the extremities, from the things that could be destructive to me. Chitzonim, the extreme things, right? And they translate here as what do they say? Negative forces, right? The extremists. I'll be able to be protected from the extremists. That actually is a pretty good translation here. The talit yifros knafav alehem. Yeah, we definitely did not look at this. And the talit will spread its wings upon them, v'yatzilem, and will save them, meaning the soul, the spirit, the body, and my prayers will be saved, rescued. Kenesher Yair Kino, just as an eagle or a bird, I guess you could say, that awakens its nest, al gozlav yirachef, hovering, yirachef, it's the same word we have in the book of Genesis, hovering over its, what do we call gozal? Uf gozal. Oh gosh, baby birds.
Baby birds. But
Yeah,
it
what do you
has to have
say?
another word.
Chicks, over its chicks. But I guess that's one specific kind of bird. But you know what I'm saying, baby birds. There's probably a better word, probably in English that we all know that I can't think of. And then, okay, so
fledglings.
What?
A fledgling.
Fledgling, sure. Yeah, fledglings. That sounds good. Utehe chashuva mitzvah tzitzit. So this is the line that really kills it for the mitnagdim, the opponents of Hasidism. Utehe chashuva mitzvah tzitzit livnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ki'ilu kiyamtiha b'chol prateha v'diktukeha v'kavanoteha v'taryag mitzvot hatluim ba. Amen, Selah. And let the commandment of the tzitzit be as important or be so important before the Holy One of Blessing that it's as if I have fulfilled its fulfillment, I guess. No, Kiyam Tiha, that I have fulfilled, that I fulfilled it with all of its details and fine points and intentions, and the 613 mitzvot which depend on it. So when I put on my talis, it's as if I am performing all the mitzvot. We know that the Tallit from tradition is understood as a representation of the mitzvot, right? And we see it in the Ve'ahavta. We see in the last paragraph of the tzitzit, the last paragraph of the Ve'ahavta talks about but not new all tzitzit, that will place these. We look at them, we see them, uritem oto, ustartem et mitzvot, and we'll remember the mitzvot, but also that we'll remember the exodus from Egypt. The two are sort of merged there. So we see this idea that it will be there, but here it's much more literal that by wearing the talit, it's equivalent. It's as if I have fulfilled all of the details. I like that. Dik tukeha, all of its minutia, and all of its kavanoteha, all of its intentions. The 613 commandments. They add in here, in this translation, you'll see it says, as well as the 613 commandments. But that is an addition that is not there, and it does create controversy. So I know people think of it as if everyone's agreeing to what we're doing, but the reality is it was not like that whatsoever. And in Orthodox circles, there is definitely very heavy-duty division. And I think it's important for us as liberal Jews to recognize those divisions within Orthodoxy. Because when we don't, then it becomes an us versus them, and we don't look at nuance. And then we never have a way to connect with people who are different than us. Before we started this class, Sylvia was mentioning my friendship with Rabbi Mendel Schwartz, whose father, Schwartzy, was a famous figure in Southern California Chabad world, although he broke away from Chabad. Didn't break away. He sort of went out on his own. The Chabad world has a very warm feeling about the Schwartzy and his son, but they're not the same. Mendel Schwartz does it on his own. Mendel Schwartz is a wonderful human being. His Hasidic thought is a little different than my Reform Judaism thought, but we have a friendship, and part of it is that he, like me, is looking critically within his world of other strands of Judaism, but not critical in the sense of it being bad, but being different, just different. Not everything different is bad. And so I think that when we look at this prayer, it's just a reminder of the diversity within the Jewish people. Okay, so does anybody want to make any comment or ask any questions related to this? Yes, Pamela.
When we started, you were talking about Elu Devarim, and you were talking about the paragraph that came after it, but I'm a little confused because this is not for putting on the tefillin, is it, this paragraph?
No,
or is
no,
it just
no.
talking?
I was trying to get us reconnected to what we had already done.
Yeah, I'm looking it up in a couple of prayer books, and of course, the Reformed prayer book doesn't have anything like that. But I was looking
So
up
it
the
was
old Sim Shalom daily.
Yeah,
So-
it was what we had just done before we started this session.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Anything else? Hearing nothing. I guess it's time for us to say goodbye then. I hope people heard it, and I hope people learned a thing or two, because I do enjoy talking about the diversity within the Jewish people. I think it's really, really important. So thank you. Thanks for coming. Have a great day. See you on
too.
Shabbat.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See you
Have a
before
good
then.
Thank
day,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.